Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming. I'm Doris Weinberg. I'm president of Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors. Before I present our speaker tonight, Sergeant Nadav Weinberg, who I had the pleasure of getting to know last night at my birthday party, I want to say something about, he's going to speak about the ethics of the IDF. I want to say something about the ethics of the citizens, of us civilians. I woke up this morning to an email to somebody who had responded to the invitation. And he was making a very serious, long point about that I had put into the invitation that Nadav was in one place referred to as an Israeli American, and in another place as an American Israeli, and that had somehow created a great discussion among a bunch of people. And I thought to myself, the words I won't use right here, but basically it translates to seriously. I have to wonder, while young people like Nadav are putting themselves in a line of fire to which we have no comprehension, to save us, to save Israel, and the Jewish people by extension, we really have to get over these little kinds of things and support them for what they do. Personally, I think it is remarkable that they maintain the ethics that they do have. I would be opposed if they had a little bit less ethics. The entire international community spends time making stuff up about things that they don't do and wouldn't even think of doing. But that's who we are, and that's who we are. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity, which you didn't have a choice, for me to say what I wanted to say. So now I'm going to introduce Nadav, and I want to say a few words about him. So, Nadav is an Israeli-born American who is an American Israeli. Okay? And if that bothers anybody, I'm so sorry. So, he will have his presentation, so I'm not going to go into it. But Nadav was born in Israel, moved to the United States as a child, and grew up in Seattle and Cleveland. He turned down an offer from Wall Street. He made Aliyah and joined the IDF in November of 2008. He finished extensive training in the Orey Special Forces of the Nachal Brigade, close enough, active throughout Israel and primarily in the West Bank, which I call Judea Samaria. And he is going to speak to us today with a beautiful presentation, a very thought-provoking presentation about the ethics of the IDF and put us into a little bit of a position of seeing what it is that they face and with the opportunity for us to react and see what we would do in a similar situation from the comfort of a shul in Encino. So, with great pleasure.
If I don't use a mic back?
Yes.
Yes? Beautiful. I want to begin by thanking Doris and the Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors, the organization, and JJ Surbeck, a dear family friend from San Diego, who got me in touch with Doris and making all this happen. So it's a pleasure. I was gone for the last 3 years. I missed my cousin's bat mitzvah. I was gone from a lot of my family. This speaking tour has permitted me to spend time with my family, my aunt and cousin over there, and meeting all my cousins who've been growing up as little kids while I've been gone. So that's an absolute pleasure for me to be out here. I served for 2 years in the IDF. I had an opportunity every now and then to come back to the States and visit my family, because it was about once a year and not a lot of opportunities to come and visit. And on one of those visits, I got a chance to meet with one of my friends from high school who's a Jew. And he said to me, Nadav, I want to support Israel, But I saw this clip the other day on CNN of an IDF soldier running down the street in the West Bank and shooting at a Palestinian child. And I see these things and I can't support Israel. So I said, well, where's the video clip? Oh, I don't know. I just saw it on CNN. Okay, well, what unit was the person in? What was the circumstances that went on? Give me some back. I don't know. I just see this 30-second clip. And I just can't support Israel because I've seen a few of these pictures and these doctored pictures and these things, and this is how I feel. And I had just come back from arresting a pretty high level terrorist in the West Bank, and I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this is not at all what happens." I don't know what this little clip was. I hadn't seen it. I said, "There's something that I have to do personally. I need to share my story. I need to share stories of my friends and different experiences that they've gone through." I want to begin by saying I'm not Michael Oren, I'm not the ambassador, I'm not a college professor. There's a lot of things I don't know. Well, what I love about this presentation is it's not me talking to you. It's a dialogue that we're going to have. I'm going to take you out of nice sunny LA and put you into Israel, into situations that I've been through. And we're going to have a dialogue of what would you do. Because war is not 1776 of red coats, blue coats, who can load faster, put their bayonet and charge because you're looking your enemy in the eye. That's not war. I've seen it, and that is not what it is. You don't know who your enemy is a lot of the time. So, that being said, as we all know, this is one of the very hot topics that goes on in today's society. So what I want us to do is we're going to be open to everybody's views. I want to have a respecting conversation, and I want this to be a time where if you have questions, if you have concerns, we can talk about it. That being said, Israel isn't perfect. I'm not up here holding Israel on a silver platter and saying we've never made mistakes, because we have. The ethical code of conduct that I'll talk about today was created because of mistakes. And when we do missions, we make mistakes. But we talk about it afterwards and we say, how are we going to be better? How are we going to be more ethical? And my thesis, which I hope you'll agree with by the end of my presentation, is that we are the most ethical and moral military in the world. So, let's begin. You guys have a little background about me. What did I do in the Army? And we have Ezra, my friend actually from the Army, who surprised me today. I haven't seen him for a couple of years. He's going to be our point man here. My unit is known as Orey Nachal. Orey in Hebrew is a raven or a crow. In English, the name of the missile is the Tau-2 missile. So how do you even get into a Special Forces unit? It's called a gibush, a tryout. So anybody can do it if you have a high enough physical profile. That means you're healthy enough. And for my tryout, 400 people started. You can quit at any point over the most grueling, mentally, physical, and emotional 4 days I've ever been through. Of those, 120 finished, 70 were accepted into my unit, and after a year of 2 months, a year and 2 months, and 3 more months more training after that, 60 people were left. We have two specialties for my unit. One is the Orev, the missile. In war, we are the very first people to go into battle. We open up the shetach, the territory, the area, for the regular forces, for the tanks to come through after us. So a reconnaissance unit will go up to a mountain, and they will call us if they see that there's a tank, a building, a car that needs to be taken down. And we carry this very large missile on our backs. We now have a newer missile. We'll carry on our backs, go to the top of the hill, and take out that area, that target. Now, Israel hasn't fought a tank, a war against a tank, in many, many years. So they said we need to create another specialty for this unit. What is it? Counterterrorism warfare. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I was mainly active in the West Bank, Yudah Shamron, however you want to call it, arresting Hamas and Fatah terrorists. That's what I spent most of my time doing, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Next one. So I want you guys to have some idea of kind of a few pictures, what I went through a little bit. It all starts with basic training. Go ahead. This is me. So young, so innocent. I had no idea what was ahead of them. On the very first day of reporting, all my friends from the kibbutz where I lived at. Next one. This is, as Ezra knows very well, Arad. This is in the background, in the desert, in the Negev. It is nothing but sand in every single direction. Living in tents, not a fun time. This is me at my ashba'ah, my swearing-in ceremony. Every single combat soldier goes through a swearing-in ceremony. This was actually at the Kotel, at the Western Wall in Israel, in Jerusalem. And this, for me, is the definition of what we're going to talk about. What am I holding? I'm holding the Torah, the Tanakh, right? And then I have an M16. This is modern-day Israel. This is the power and the might of the IDF, where we're forced to defend ourselves. We're forced to have a conscription service, where every single person every civilian has been in the military, pretty much. And then you have Judaism, the foundation of Israel, a Jewish state, putting them together. And after they go through the code of conduct, and you say, Ani ashba, ani ashba, ani ashba, ani swear, I swear, I swear, to uphold the conduct and supreme values that make us the most ethical military in the world. For me, it was a very, very moving moment. This is me in Hebron, in the West Bank, Hebron. Every soldier gets a specialty. Mine was a machine gun about this big, 3 pounds, called the Negev. It is 15 pounds, very heavy, and you're the first one of your group to go in. So if you do the math, I'm the first one of my team, the first one to go into war. I'm the guy who breaks the line to go into Syria or Lebanon if there's a war. So, next one. All right, so then we had advanced training for 3 months. Carried alumkot, stretchers. You can see I'm not very happy. This is about 4 hours into me carrying him, who's smiling because he thinks it's hilarious. That march was about 5 hours straight of not leaving the stretcher. You were not permitted to switch out from the stretcher. You do this a lot because the mentality, which we'll talk about with Gilad Shalit, which is on everybody's minds right now, is that I do not care who you are, where you are, you will always return with every single one of your men. We do not leave a man behind. You will carry him out, up and down mountains. I have carried men up and down mountains. I've carried them on my back, one-on-one, up and down mountains for miles at a time without stopping, because I know that in war, I'm not leaving anybody behind. So this is what we do for hours and hours every week, carrying stretchers. All right, this is me at my Tekes Humta, where I got my beret. Nachal is the glow sticks, as they call it, the light green berets. And then if I thought all this was pretty hard, we got into Special Forces training. This is in the Carmel Mountains where the fire was, carrying 100 pounds on my back, navigating 20 miles at a time, blindfolded, without having a map. You have to get everywhere, find a tree with a little rock and 3 spray-painted words under it, write down those words. Not a fun time. I did jump training. This is the scariest thing I ever did in the Army. I don't like planes, I don't like heights, and I definitely don't like jumping out of them. So I did it twice and as part of my training, so it was an experience. Who knows what Krav Maga is? The hand-to-hand combat of the IDF, it's not fun. It's not a fun time. You get hit, they get hit, everyone goes back and forth. A lot of Krav Maga training. A lot of counterterrorism training. And then this is me at the end of our year and 2 months, 120 pounds on my back, night vision, carrying the big machine gun. Exhausting time. But we saw a very nice sunset, and so we all said, 2 years from now, today, we'll be able to look at it and say, wow, that looks really nice. So, and then these are all my best friends. When we finished Har Kanaim down in the Negev, on one of the biggest mountains down there, celebrating. And then both my parents showed up to wish me congratulations. All right, moving forward. So, now let's talk about Israel. We'll talk about it very briefly because I think you guys know about it a little better than I do. Things I want you guys to keep in mind. Gaza is located over here. Yudah Shomron, or the West Bank, is over here. Israel's tiny. It's about the size of New Jersey. What do we have here? If you take out the West Bank, Israel is only 6 miles wide. My favorite quote is George W. Bush said, in Texas we have driveways longer than that. It's very, very small. I want you to notice Gaza and Yudah Shomron, the West Bank, that the Palestinian population, there's not a good consensus. There's not a consensus that they fill out, so we have a disparity of how many they claim, how many we think, back and forth, international population, what is considered to be there. So we're going to say there's about 1.2 to 3.5 million people or so living in those areas. As we see Israel, in comparison to the rest of the 21 Arab states surrounding her, we have 300 million Arabs, 21 states, 5.5 million Jews. If we break this down even more, we see Israel, in comparison to everything else, is 1/800th the size. We're surrounded, and if you look from 1948, if you go back before that, 1948, 1967, 1973, 1982, pick whatever war you want. We've been invaded, we've been attacked. If there's anything you can't dispute about it, Israel's not loved by its surroundings. So this we do know. All right. So what is the ethical code of conduct? Israel made mistakes. I'll be the first one to say it. In 1982 Lebanon War, we did not conduct ourselves in the most ethical manner. And Israel said, we need to think about this because we are the people, we are the chosen people, a country of the chosen people, right? I don't think that means we're better than anybody else as Jews. It means we have an obligation to hold ourselves as leaders, to hold ourselves in a higher moral light than everybody else and lead by example. So they said, you know what? We need to use the United States' ethical code of conduct as an example. And in 1992, Israel created the first draft of Ruach Tzahal, the spirit of the IDF. In 1994, it was finally released, and every single soldier is tested upon it. I don't care if you're a girl, a man, well, you're a boy when you go in the army, a girl, a boy, a jobnik, as they say, a person who does a job in the army, a clerk, or someone who's in the most sayet matkal shayetet, the most elite special forces. You learn this and are tested upon this. Why? Well, we have a conscription service that's forced upon us. We don't have the ability to not send our children to war. We have to. And as soon as you do that genetically, I don't care what country you're in, you have the same percentage of geniuses to crazy people and everybody in between, right? Now we're putting a gun into everybody's hands, essentially. You're going to have issues. We need to conform everybody to an ethical code of conduct. I was tested upon this 3 times. That doesn't include before and after every mission where I went to arrest terrorists, when we discussed it, excuse me. Before we sat down and we said every possible thing that could go wrong. He twists his ankle, they start throwing cinder blocks off a building at us, and everything in between. And we sat down and said, how will you act in each of these situations? So we know ahead of time. Then we said afterwards, when we came back from mission, we said what went right, and more importantly, what went wrong. And with what went wrong, we said, how are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again, and how are we going to get better? So let's break it down in a few different areas. And before I begin again, I just want to say, this combines, for the first time, Israeli law, international law, foreign countries' values, mostly that of the U.S., which we'll see in a minute, and Jewish law, Torah law. So we're combining everything that Israel is established upon. The first thing I want to point out, responsibility. The soldier's action shall be characterized by constant involvement, initiative, and diligence, demonstrating good judgment. As a soldier, am I demonstrating good judgments in my actions? This is something we always need to think about. And we don't want our soldiers to be robots. We want our soldiers to think. So that means that your commander is not always telling you what to do. You need to be demonstrating good judgment in all your actions. Human dignity. The IDF and its soldiers are obligated to preserve human dignity. All human beings are of inherent value regardless of race, creed, nationality, gender, status, or role. What's this sound like? Anybody U.S. history buff? Yeah. This is the dialogue we're having. Declaration of Independence, Constitution. This is all men are created equal. Where do you think it comes from? We stole part of it from the U.S. because that is the foundation of equality. I do not care if you're Baha'i, Christian, Muslim, you are anything in between and everything else. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I am obligated to treat you the same way that I would treat anybody. Do we always do this? No. We make mistakes. But we constantly go back and say, how am I going to be better next time that I do? The human life. If you ask any rabbi, they will tell you the golden rule in Judaism is saving a human life. The supreme value of human life. You can break Shabbat, you can break Yom Kippur, you can break any commandment in order to save a human life. And that is the fundamental golden rule of Israel, and that is what happened with Gilad Shalit. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The soldier shall always act with reason and caution, bearing in mind the supreme value of human life. That's the golden rule of Judaism. It's the golden rule of the IDF. It's the golden rule of Israel. As I said, when you put a gun into everybody's hands, you have to create a code of conduct that says how that person's going to act with that gun. And this, for me, means more than anything else. Because what is a gun? A gun is a killing weapon. It is meant for one thing, to kill, and to be effective in killing. The soldier shall make use of his weaponry and power only for the fulfillment of the mission, and solely to the extent required. He will maintain his humanity even in combat. The soldier shall not employ his weaponry and power in order to harm non-combatants or prisoners of war, and shall do all that he can to avoid harming their lives, body, honor, and property. So, you all remember when I began the speech and told you about my friend who said we run down and start shooting randomly and all that stuff. I said, okay, let's begin with this. What is the process before firing? Okay? Every soldier learns this in Tirunut, in basic training, males, females, and it changes. We'll talk about this. So here, we're gonna role play right now, okay? You or me, okay? You're the soldier. We'll say that I am here. In front of me is desert. I'm guarding at a base. Behind me is a base. All of a sudden, and it's dark at night, in the desert, it is nothing darker than the desert at night. If anybody's been there, you can attest, it is pitch black. So for me to finally see somebody, an object or something, they have to be within 100 feet for me to physically be able to see them. So all of a sudden, I see someone coming to me. What's the first thing I do? Waqif, waqif, which means? Stop, stop in Arabic. First thing, waqif, waqif. Okay? The second thing that I do, I point the gun at 60 degrees, and I hit the gun barrels. Why 60 degrees, and why do I hit the gun barrels? Let's do hands so we don't... Yes?
Show them that you have it and to warn them.
And to warn them. Why 60 degrees?
So they hit them.
It's a non-lethal shot. I'm not going to hit them. Again, for me to physically be able to see somebody at this point, the ballistic range of the missile, of the bullet that I shoot from the gun is going to go over them. You're not going to hit them. Right? Because we still don't know who it is. 99% of the time of problems that we have is just a Bedouin sheep herder who wandered and he's getting his sheep. You don't want to innocently shoot a Bedouin sheep herder. So, I want to be at 60 degrees. The bullet will go over his head. I hit it. He knows I have a gun. I continue to yell, waqif, waqif, atzor, atzor. Atzor, atzor means stop, stop in Hebrew. So I always yell, stop, stop in English as well. You never know. You cover all your bases. I like to make sure I've covered all my bases. I now cock the gun. Why do I cock the gun? How is that different than hitting the gun barrels?
Shows you mean business.
It means business. What happens? What is the motion of cocking a gun? What happens? The bullet goes into the chamber of the gun. He now knows I have a loaded gun. He knows I have a gun. He knows that it's loaded. And he knows that I'm telling him to stop multiple times. The most important thing is to continuously explain the situation over the radio. I don't care where you are, what mission you're on, you are always by a radio. There's someone carrying a radio. There's an officer, a commander on the other line, where you are relaying this over to that person saying, there's somebody walking towards me. I've told them to stop. I've cocked my gun. I've hit the gun barrels. It's at 60 degrees. What do I do? Now, it begs the question, what happens if this person's suspicious? What if they start shooting at you? Do you have time to go over the radio? These are good questions. If he continues, or she, and is considered suspicious, you're only permitted to shoot at the knees and below. Why? You stop them, but what don't you do? It's a non-lethal shot. It's a non-lethal shot. As a soldier, I need to make, hit the next one, if and only if he has a weapon are you permitted to shoot to kill. Now, this brings into a big question. Someone with a knife 100 feet away from me, can they kill me?
Yes.
Can they kill me from 100 feet away? No. He can't throw a knife 100 feet. Can he, if he has a gun? Does that change the situation?
Yes.
Absolutely. So these are all things that we're going to be talking about today. It's easy in this situation. I'm going to make it a lot more hard in a minute. Okay? I went on a mission where we had Shabak, Israeli intelligence, came with us because it was a very high level mission that we went on. We had our commanding officer came to us, the head of of our unit, our Mempe, as they say in Hebrew, the commanding officer of your platoon. And he came and said, listen, we're going to arrest the guy tonight. Here's his background. He has 2 older brothers. His oldest brother blew himself up on a bus in 2001, and during the Intifada he killed 12 Israelis, including children. His second oldest brother is currently spending a life sentence for his affiliation with Hamas in Israeli jails. We're capturing him. He's a third brother. That tells you what you need to know about this family, right? And the environment in which they've grown up in. He said, under no situation is anybody permitted to shoot when we get him, except if he is directly threatening your life. So I raised my hand. I said, I showed you the gun I was carrying. I'm carrying 60 plus pounds as well. I said, well, what happens if he runs? He says, go catch him. Okay. This is the value at which we place on that of a human life. Let's compare it with that of our enemy. In 1988, Hamas put together its official covenant. It's also known as the Islamic Resistance Movement. You can read it online. It is the most hateful, anti-Semitic, anti-West, anti-Israeli, you name it, doctrine, one of the most hateful things I've ever written. I've read through it. So who are they? What do they say? It says the Islamic Resistance Movement is a distinguished Palestinian movement whose allegiance is to Allah and whose way of life is Islam. It strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. What's Palestine for them? It's all of Israel. They make it very clear if you keep reading through their doctrine. So now we're facing an enemy who doesn't believe in our existence to live where we live. How do you fight this enemy? They make it a little more clear for us as well. One of their politicians said, for the Palestinian people, death has become an industry at which women excel, and so do all elderly, mujahideen and children. This is why they formed human shields of the women, the children, the elderly, and the mujahideen. It is as if they were saying to the Zionist enemy, we desire death like you desire life. This is one of the 2 main slogans of Hamas that is written in green and white, their colors, on their bandanas that they wear into marches, into war. How are you supposed to fight an enemy who would rather die than let you live? And not only that, he doesn't believe you even belong in this area. People want to say it's a simple war, that we make bad decisions. Well, let's take a look at the different decisions. The first thing we're going to talk about here is the use of innocent civilians and human shields. You ready to point? No, sorry.
Human shielding involves the intentional placement of innocent civilians in harm's way in order to protect the lives of combatants or hide illicit military actions. The forceful sacrifice...
We have a problem. Do you know what an IDF soldier looks like? The uniform. Yes? Do you know what an American soldier looks like? Yes? The kind of weird camouflage sort of cool thing they have. That's called a standing army. You know who's in a standing army because they have a uniform and you can tell who the soldiers are. The Palestinians don't have a standing army. Hamas is not a standing army. Fatah is not a standing army. The PLO does not have a standing army. This brings into question international law. Who is a combatant and who isn't? Well, international law tells us that in a civilian territory such as Gaza or the West Bank, a combatant is somebody who has a gun, someone who has a weapon and is able to put harm on another person. Now here's the tricky part. As soon as they don't have that, let's say I shoot, I throw my gun, I walk out away like this, that's a civilian again. How do you know who's who? So this is, I'll make it clear for you. We'll see, I'll play it again. On his back he has a loaded AK-47. He grabs a kid as he's running across the street. Play it.
Of an innocent sanctity of life is considered a war crime.
Okay, you can see it very clearly here, the AK-47. It's loaded. Now, this is where we're going to have our dialogue. I was a trained sharpshooter after a while in the Army. We learn how to hit moving targets. I want you to raise your hand. This person we know is a Hamas terrorist. He just launched a missile into Israel. Raise your hand if you shoot him at this moment. You have the green light from the Army to go. Why do you shoot him?
Because that's the only language to understand.
Somebody else. Yes, why do you shoot him?
Because he is the enemy. He's carrying a weapon. He's carrying a shield.
It is very easy to miss him and hit that kid.
It is true.
Who doesn't take the shot? Why don't you take the shot?
Because at that moment he is not a threat to you, and he's running away from you carrying the child.
What if he takes his gun as he's carrying the kid and starts shooting at you?
He's kidnapped.
Is he a threat to you at that point?
If he rules questionable.
Are we starting to see? We're going to keep this going. It's a lot of gray.
Did he just shoot the missile right then?
Does it matter if he just shot it or if he shot it yesterday?
He shot it right then and then he's running away. He's like, just was actively involved.
But what if he did it yesterday? Does that change who this person is? That he's a terrorist? No.
Just shoot him.
Why can't you justify it that he's kidnapping?
That he's kidnapping. But now okay, he's kidnapping. Now you just killed an innocent 10-year-old hostage.
Shoot again.
Shoot again.
The world would show you.
All right, we're going to keep it going. Don't worry, we're going to have lots and lots of discussion on this. IDF official policy is 9 times out of 10 not to take this shot. Is it right or wrong? That's for you. 9 out of 10 not to take the shot.
What's the 10?
The 10 is to be if there's a very, very good reason of why and who the person is to shoot. Who is the person shooting? All right, we're going to keep it going. I apologize, don't worry. We're going to have a lot of these discussions moving forward with it. This is great that we have an interaction going on. I enjoy this.
But first and foremost, it is a reprehensible violation of the universal concept of human decency. Hamas has fully integrated human shielding as a basic element of its terrorist doctrine, initiating live fire attacks against Israel.
Is this real footage?
Yeah, oh yeah. This is a picture I've seen before in CNN and Fox News. Just that little part of it. Now, you see this picture, and if you're a civilized individual, your first question is, what in God's name are these two kids doing there? What are they doing there? The next movie we'll shows that according to the Geneva Convention international law, you have to be 15 years old to take part in hostilities. I don't think they're 15. I sincerely doubt they are. But even if they are 15, they're not armed. What are they doing there? What are they doing there? So now, let's role play a little bit. Here is a wall, right? I'm the soldier, you are me. I'm coming down with my unit. If you can see in this picture, everybody's pushed back. The only thing that you would be able to see as a soldier is his muzzle shooting at you. I'm coming down. Do I fire? Do you fire? Raise your hand if you shoot back. The only thing you see, again, is him shooting at you in this part of the muzzle. Raise your hand if you shoot. Raise your hand if you don't shoot. Why don't you shoot?
There are too many people behind
You can't see those people. You can't, let me reiterate, you cannot see the people behind them. Do you fire?
Yes.
Absolutely you do. There's not a doubt in my mind. There's not a doubt in any military's mind. When we are taught, when we are engaged, we respond. We are shot at, you shoot back. You can't see these people here. You can't see the kids there. Now here's the issue. I'm the soldier, I don't know they're there. We've all seen the Kennedy assassination and the bullet, and we know that bullets bounce regardless of if that's true or whatever. Bullets will bounce around. There's a very, very, very good chance that if I'm unloading 30 bullets, that there's a good chance one of those kids is going to be hit. They are on that is called the front line. That is the front of the line. How do I make sure those kids aren't killed? I don't know they're there.
Forces from within civilian crowds. hiding weapons manufacturing facilities and storage depots in residential buildings and places of worship.
This is inside, you can see, it's a mosque. For me, I'm a reasonably devout Jew. I know for a fact, and I'm hoping you guys in Los Angeles don't keep grenades or rockets in your synagogues, or your mosques, or your temples, or your churches. For me, in my personal humble opinion, a place of worship is as untouchable and holy as a UN ambulance. You do not touch it. This is where they're hiding their things. Now, when I've been attacked and said, why do you go into our mosques and tear them apart? Now you guys know, if you haven't seen this before. We have to find every single place of where they're hiding. As we said, we're going to talk about children indoctrination. 15 years old to participate in the hostilities.
Despite universal consensus on the status of children as a protected population, Hamas has shown no respect for this fundamental axiom.
Tell me if any of these kids are 15.
Hamas begins the process when the children's minds...
And these are real guns, by the way.
...prejudice, indoctrinating them to blind hatred of Jews and Israelis and a lust for sacrificing their lives in the name of holy jihad. The children are then used as human robots, remotely controlled by Hamas operators, who send them on missions for which they would not risk their own lives.
And in case you don't believe they're real weapons,
under the guise and protection of their age.
When I grew up, my favorite show was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is one of the most popular shows, at least was, in Gaza. Real guns. It's one thing to act like G.I. Joe, one thing to act like a soldier. It's another thing to act how they're acting.
Assumed innocence. These children are used as spotters in the front line of combat, used to retrieve weapons from fallen combatants, used to play in Qassam rocket launching areas to deter Israeli attacks. They're used to transport explosives and weapons.
C-15?
And most grievously, they're sent unknowingly with explosive devices in their school bag.
No.
To be blown up.
Hard enough. Okay. I want to say something before I begin. I had the pleasure of meeting a man named Gaith Alomeri. I definitely butchered his name. I apologize. He's one of the former aides to, senior aides to Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PLO and the PA. And he said, and I asked him this question, I said, in your schools, do you teach this hatred? And he said, he acknowledged and said, this has been an issue we've had. And again, he's talking about the West Bank, not Gaza. He says, absolutely, it's been an issue. We have brought in 28,000 new teachers to change the curriculum completely. So I'm hoping that that changes. Now, this is what always, this and the next one we're going to see is always the most discussion that we have. You're at a checkpoint. A 10-year-old boy comes up. You can tell that he's nervous. He's wearing a parka. It's 90 degrees out. Something's not right. He's sweating profusely. You tell him to take his coat off. He has 10 pounds of explosives strapped to him. Do you take the shot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Why do you take the shot?
Why? Because you have no choice.
You just killed a 10-year-old boy. Who else takes the shot? Why do you take the shot?
Self-preservation.
Can you guarantee that he's going to hit you from that distance? That he's going to blow you up? You can't.
What's the option?
That bomb's going to kill a lot more people.
Potentially.
He's far enough that if he blows up, it's not going to hurt you. If he comes close to you, then that's a different story.
But right. So again, it's one thing the situation that I proposed to you of when I shoot or not, when I'm at a 10 to 100 feet away guarding it at my base, right? This is something different because that boy can run at any point, right? He can sprint in any direction. He's scared. Okay? Who doesn't take the shot? Why not?
Well, trying to preserve life.
Boom, you're dead. Who doesn't take the shot? What's that?
Because he's a 10-year-old, and
Boom, you're also dead. Who doesn't take the shot? Ah, tricky situation we have. Who saw the movie Hurt Locker? It won the Academy Award a couple years ago. You know what's scary about that movie? It's very realistic. It's one thing, and this is perverted to say, but it's one thing to be able to say, I'll kill myself in Allah's name and everything. It's one thing to talk like that. It's a second thing to go and push the button and blow yourself. That takes a lot more cojones to be able to do that, right? So new technology permits them to strap, as was in Hurt Locker, to strap a cell phone to that person, which will detonate the bomb. Now, as a soldier, I'm thinking, where's the person with the cell phone? Is there a sniper on me? Is he a decoy? Is there a car coming towards me that's going to take me out? I need to think about all these other situations. All the while, I have a boy with 10 pounds of explosive strapped to him 100 feet from me. So now, he can't detonate himself. He's scared. His reaction a lot of the time is going to be to run somewhere, right? Where's he going to run? Well, a lot of the time, not to you, but at every single checkpoint, or most checkpoints, there's a legal way to cross. And there are Palestinians there with their documentation to pass. Who's he running to? Who are his people? The people trying to pass. Now he runs over there, boom. There goes 5 innocent Palestinians. So, does this change your mind? What would you do differently? Raise your, yes.
He has 10 pounds of explosives. Behind him is an explosive device that will certainly go off.
A car.
Gasoline is one of the most explosive.
Right.
He could have a far greater explosive capability than what he's wearing.
Now is his... now we're talking about that he could potentially kill 3 innocent civilians, right? 4 or 5 when he runs over that way. Let alone, I don't know if he can kill me. Is my life at 25 years worth more or less than his life? Is it worth more? Is one human life worth more than another human life? The supreme value of human life. The supreme value of human life. It goes back. Self-preservation. And when people say to me, I spoke at Stanford a few days ago, and I had a guy say to me, there's no way I would take that shot. I would rather die than have that on my conscience. I said, well, you're not going to have a conscience if you're dead. And by saying that, you undermine your own human life. And that is one thing that I think we drastically overlook by people when they rebut Israeli soldiers, IDF soldiers. We're saying that or not us, but the people disagreeing with us are essentially saying that an IDF soldier's life does not equal that of another civilian. When I'm put into the situation, what do? If I don't shoot him, I'm potentially dead. Now, IDF official policy, more or less most of the time, is to shoot him in the leg. Why? If he's at a safe distance from killing you and everybody else.
Makes it more predictable.
He can't, first of all, it doesn't kill him. Second of all, he's no longer mobile. He can't move. He can't run to you. He can't run to the other people. You've now contained the blast radius and know where it's going to be.
But he can't detonate his belt.
Well, if he has a detonator on him, most likely he doesn't anymore. These are all tricky situations, right? And there's no good answer.
In this case, let's stop for a second. The kid, wasn't he also mentally handicapped? I think the episode was the kid didn't...
In Hurt Locker?
No,
in that
you showed.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that specific. He might be. He might be. This is from a Tatzukah, Operation Cast Lead, which was Israel unilaterally pulled out of Gaza in 2005 of a show of good faith. It nearly created a civil war within Israel. 8,100 settlers were uprooted, pulled out by 55,000 IDF soldiers. It almost created a civil war in Israel of Israeli versus Israeli, Jew versus Jew. violence. We pulled out to show good faith unilaterally. We were responded with over 7,000 missiles over 3 years, shot with the purpose of killing as many people and causing as much damage as possible. We said enough is enough, right? Enough is enough. We went in, and between December 08 and January 09, for 23 days, we went in through Operation Cast Lead and dismantled Hamas as best as we could during that period. So here's a video footage of what happened in, of one of the situations that arose. This is in the middle of a street. That's an anti-tank missile. You'll see a close-up in a second. Now, IDF soldier is going to come down that way. I want you to imagine that's you. He throws a stun grenade. You'll see it, a big white burst in a second.
This is Gaza?
This is Gaza, yes. You can see this guy right here is clearly injured. There's the big burst. He has a gun on him. He goes into this vehicle. Get ready, pause it. Pause it. What's this say right here? This is a UN ambulance. See the flag on top? I'm not here to say Palestinians don't deserve to have a UN ambulance. They absolutely do. They deserve to have UN help. They deserve to have a UN hospital. But this is a sick abuse of your tax dollars and my tax dollars by using a UN ambulance to transport combatants. Now, you saw one of them was injured, but he's not allowed to use a UN ambulance when you're injured and you're a combatant in this situation. Go ahead and play it. In case anybody questions if they're really... Here's another gun. He runs in there. There's another guy with another gun. Go ahead and pause it. Doors close, it drives away. Now, you're that soldier who threw that grenade, right? You came down that street. You don't know who's in that ambulance, right? You don't know. Raise your hand if you shoot at the UN ambulance. Right? You're not going to shoot at a UN ambulance. Now, you do know. You did see it. Raise your hand if you shoot the UN ambulance. Why do you shoot?
Because your life's in danger. If they get away, they're going to be shooting you eventually.
You just shot at a UN ambulance. You're going to tell me, somebody here, please tell me that Israel shoots at a UN ambulance, and that is not going to be front page of the CNN, on the ticker, on every single place. Israel blows up, shoots UN ambulance. Oh, that is what they look for. Who shoots? Somebody else. Why do you shoot?
Well, in a case like that, you can't be halfway. You've got to go all the way, take it over, and turn it into a photo op for your side.
Who doesn't shoot? Why not?
Has the potential to provoke an international incident.
Somebody else?
Israel is always losing the public relations war. We can't afford another.
So screw it. Let's just shoot it then.
No, because you have to stop, you have to minimize it. Even if you're going to lose the public relations war, don't give them another one to splash.
I noticed that as the stuff is progressing, the written responses from the audience are becoming more and more tentative.
Are more and more?
Becoming more and more tentative as we progress, because we're thinking more and more the answers are less forthcoming.
And this is what I'm here to talk about. I'm not here to tell you I have answers. There aren't any good answers. If any of you guys have great answers, please volunteer to go to Israel and let them know. Sign up for the Pentagon. We need answers. There is no good answers. War is not black and white. War is gray. This is war. Do you shoot? Do you not shoot? How do we do this? Israel will not do this. Israel will not use a UN ambulance to move our troops. And don't give me the fact that you don't receive $3 billion a year, that you have less money. Stop attacking us. Stop shooting 7,000 missiles directed at killing our children. That's how you avoid this. You accept peace proposals. Since 1948, for 63 years, Israel has gone and offered peace. That's how you stop this. That is how. But me as a soldier, you as a potential soldier, my best friends over there, how do they act? Are they not permitted to defend themselves in this manner? Absolutely. No, go ahead. Right at the beginning of it. Pause it. Okay. Who's heard of Vietnam? Right? Probably we all have, right? In Vietnam, the U.S. discovered urban warfare where there were tunnels going between all the different places. In 2005, we discovered in Hezbollah, in southern Lebanon, that it's beyond anything ever there. It's tremendous. It also exists in Gaza. There is a tunnel between Gaza and Egypt that is big enough, a tunnel big enough to put a tank through. Just so you guys know how big a tank is like from here to that wall. That's how big a tunnel is going through there, moving back and forth. This is one of the tunnels that was found. This is just so you, go on. This is so you see just how elaborate it is, and raise your hand and tell me if you would have found this on the sweep of a house, search of a house. It's in someone's bathroom. They had a whole bunch of cleaning supplies there. There's a tunnel looking down, the tunnel looking up.
How does it find it?
Homemade explosives, tools and weapons to make those things. Pause it. And in case you don't believe any of those, there's a missile sitting right there. How'd they find it? We went house to house. How do you find something like this? Can I just walk through the house, look around, okay, this is good? No. You have to tear down walls. You have to uproot bathrooms, kitchens. That's the only way to find it. I had a very good friend of mine who was in Operation Cast Lead. His team went through a house. They searched the house. They didn't find anything. Right? Nobody there had a gun, so they're all civilians. They left the house. They continued to the next house. They only had one person or two people looking back. There was a tunnel in that house. Two of the guys popped out of the tunnel. They had AK-47s down, started shooting at them. How are they supposed to know? How are you supposed to know where the tunnels are? How are you supposed to know these things? You have to search extremely thoroughly, and you have to destroy parts of houses to find these things. Because there's what's called slikim, which are between walls where people can go through. It is extremely, extremely complicated, and don't let them fool you that they are, 18th century technology, whatever. They absolutely do have the ability to do these things.
Do you use dogs at all?
Absolutely. There's a unit called Okits, which I've used a bunch of times. Actually, very briefly, I did a mission with them. We went through a house. We went through the entire house, took things apart, could not find anything. The owners there saying, we don't have anything. But we had intelligence saying that he was transporting ammunition. We brought the dog through, did a sweep of the house, nothing. Did a sweep outside the house, nothing. Did a sweep 10 feet outside the house, all of a sudden the dog sits down, points its paw at a tree, they pull a shovel out, 3 feet underground is 300 rounds of ammunition. I was watching, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Unbelievable. The dogs are absolutely, they do use dogs to do that. All right. So what do we do with it? We blow it up. Pause it. Now this is where I'm going to talk to you about Gilad Shalit. How was Gilad Shalit taken? From a tunnel. A tunnel that went down through Gaza and up in Israel. What have we talked about today? What's this golden rule that I've told you about? Supreme value of human life. Gilad Shalit and the deal and what it cost to bring him back, 1,027 soldiers, terrorists, for one Israeli soldier is a staggering price. What did it take for us to get there? It's the equivalent of Osama bin Laden and Obama sitting down at a table and negotiating. Can you see that happening? No. That's what Netanyahu did. He sat down, the prime minister of one of the most respected countries in the world, sat down with our enemy and the terrorist organization trying to destroy us, Hamas, and said, what do you want? And bargained back and forth and back and forth. When you have a conscription service, it means every single person's in the army. If America had a conscription service, all of you would have been in the army. That means not only your children are soldiers and your blood, but in Israel there's 2 degrees, 1 degree of separation for everybody in that country. Everybody knows everybody. And every single person, every single child is every single other person's child and soldier. When I go into war, I want to know that my country is going to do everything in its power to bring me back. I don't want to go into war thinking that, well, I don't know how much I matter to my country. Who knew that there was an American soldier that's been captured since 2009, held by the Taliban? Who knows his name? Is that disgusting? It's absurd. When an Israeli soldier is killed, there were 3 Israeli soldiers killed during my service, during training accidents. It was headline news, front page. That's all you could hear on TV, all you would see. Where's the Iraqi, Afghanistan, and Pakistani deaths of our soldiers? You won't find it on the first page. You'll find flip to the back of it. You'll find it in there. And there's a little box that's 4 or 5 names of the soldiers who were killed. That's disgusting to me. For me, I want to know that my country is going to do everything that it can. Israel, every single child is a soldier, and every single child is someone else's child. I showed you the pictures of me carrying the alumkot, the stretchers. I don't care what. I've carried a man my size on my shoulders for 2 miles up and down a mountain. I know that no matter what, I'm going to take every single one of my friends out of there. That's a mentality that Israel has, and we can guarantee that this one life is going to be continued. We can guarantee this. So let's move it forward. Let's do it. Now, if and when one of those 1,027 people is involved in another Israeli death, we now have a question. It's not so easy. But we can guarantee the life of one of our brothers and sisters. One of our brothers. We're going to, for this, we'll save it for question and answer session so we can move forward, if that's okay. We're going to let this next guy talk for me for a minute.
The Israel Air Force does all in its power in order to avoid civilian casualties, even to the extent of diverting an already armed missile on its way to a Hamas operative target. What you are about to see is actual footage taken from the cockpits of Israel aircraft that proves just that.
So we have a Hamas vehicle. The missile's already in the air. Pause it. Now he goes into some building. Do you know who's in that building? Can you guarantee me there are no civilians, no children? No. I can't. We can't. We have a missile in the air. Israel receives $3 billion a year of aid from the United States. Separate note so you guys know, 75% of that must be spent within the United States. $2.25 million, creating thousands of American jobs. We have the best technologies in the world. But with the best technologies comes a responsibility to use them ethically and appropriately. So raise your hand. This missile's already in the air. Do you still let it go and hit the target? You'll destroy it. But you'll destroy whatever else is in the house.
Why didn't they get the thing before it went in?
It still takes, I mean, we got great technology, but it takes a few seconds for it to be launched and to hit. You said you'd shoot it? Why?
Because I'm at war. There's a Hamas vehicle. It's come to the house. There's an association between the vehicle and the house. Wartime, the last resort, I shoot.
Go ahead and play.
Why don't you shoot it before it gets to the house?
That's what she said. We will, but we can't always guarantee that. What do? We divert the missile out into some empty area where we know it's not going to hurt anybody. Boom. Pause it. $50,000. In Operation Cast Lead, in 23 days, Israel spent $6.5 million diverting missiles. $6.5 million moving targets from hitting them. The missiles from hitting the potential targets to avoid civilian casualties. According to 60 Minutes, the U.S., the accepted civilian casualties for one terrorist is, for one terrorist, 30 civilians. One terrorist, so if we're in a room and there are 30 other civilians and I'm the one terrorist, you don't need presidential approval to blow that house up. Israel used to be 1-to-1. One terrorist, one civilian. We've changed it because our technology's gotten better. It's now 12-to-1. 12 terrorists for one civilian. That is the extreme, the supreme value of human life and the highest ethics across any military in any country in the world. Created a new technology where they changed the timing of the explosion by a fraction of a second, so it hits the ground and then detonates. What's this do? Decreases the blast radius. Each time that we do it, $250,000. Most missiles that we used in Operation Cast Lead had these. We created this technology. So now you're using a $50,000, maybe even say $100,000 missile. You're now putting in 2.5 to 5 times the amount just to make sure that you are not going to avoid civilians around you in an urban warfare conflict. The last video we're going to show very briefly. In Operation Cast Lead, Israel dropped over 2.5 million pamphlets saying, missiles have been shot from this area, we will be bombing at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Leave your house in 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. In Arabic, in Hebrew, in English. 2.5 million pamphlets. They went over the radio and announced broadcasts. They made over 165,000 phone calls and text messages to people's personal cell phone, saying, well, he'll tell you exactly what they told him.
فقال أن الأمن الإسرائيلي بعد 5 دقائق دخلي التولادة فقفلت الجوال على الفور وإذا اتصلت بعض الأصدقاء فظهر على الأهالي عبر مكبرات الصوت وبلأوا سطح المنزل وظلوا حتى الآن يعني مرابطون على سطح المنزل إلى أن يشاء الله سبحانه وتعالى.
Civilians, including women and children, are also exploited by being placed at military targets, which Hamas expects to be attacked.
المواطنون وفور سماع نبأ التهديد باستهداف المنزل خرجوا من منازلهم متوجهين إلى منزل الجعابين. يشكل دروعا بشرية.
This is the house. You're the pilot, you got the okay, we know that we have the okay to bomb the house. You go there, what did he do? You called him. You called the civilian to say, leave your house, save your family and children. What's he do? He takes his children, his wife, his neighbors, and go on top of this roof. Do you still shoot?
It's because he knows it.
So what should we do? Israel is the only military in the world, well, at least the first military in the world, to notify people ahead of time that we were going to attack. Now, what is the #1 reason that I do a mission, that we do a mission at 2 o'clock in the morning? It's darkness. What does darkness mean? Surprise. I don't care if you go back to the oldest, cavemen fighting. Standard military procedure is the element of surprise. We are giving up as our soldiers the element of surprise. We're saying, we're going to be there in 5 minutes. We're going to be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You lose surprise because we want to make sure that there are no civilians that are killed there. We are doing everything in our power to do this. You had a question?
No, I just wanted to add to the mix. Part of the chief that they know that Israel won't bomb. So the military that would bomb, they have used that, probably they wouldn't be doing it.
What's that? No. He just said it. They know Israel won't bomb it. All right. I want you... Huh?
Still doing that?
Is Israel not bombing?
Warning.
Warning? Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll move this into the question and answer part, okay? I want to wrap this up, but then...
Why don't they just say they're going to bomb one house and then just bomb another?
That's a great question. You can't guarantee that. You can't guarantee now that at that house there aren't civilians in the house you said you were going to bomb, but not bombing. You can't guarantee these things. Right? So, I want you guys to raise your hands if you agree with the following statements. It's okay if you don't agree with all of them. I don't agree with all of them. But I want you guys to raise your hand. Do you believe in gay rights? The gays should have rights. Next one. Do you believe the gays should be permitted to serve in the military? Do you believe in women's rights? That women should have the same rights as men?
I don't.
Next one. Do you believe in artists' rights? That is the freedom of speech. That you can say what you want without fearing for your life. Do you believe in the prosecution of crooked politicians? Yes. Absolutely. Do you believe in an impartial justice system? That is, if I'm rich, I can't go to the judge and pay him off. Are you opposed to capital punishment? I'm personally for that. I know it's a touchy subject these days especially. The only country in the Middle East that consistently applies all the above is Israel. It's not Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, and Syria, where homosexual conduct is punishable by flogging and/or imprisonment. And it's not Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, where if you are gay, you are put to death. It's not Jordan and Egypt, where honor or killings of women occur all too frequently. It's not Iran, which has the second highest execution rate after China in the world. It's not Egypt, where until recently civilians had lived under martial law for 28 years. As we've seen by the uprising, by the Arab Spring, they're sick of not being civilians. They're sick of being run by sheikhs and by dictators. They say enough is enough. And they absolutely deserve the same democratic rights that you or I have. The same rights that permit me to say this, talking here in America, as I would be able to talk in Israel. I worked after the army as a bartender for 6 months in Tel Aviv, which was a great, great fun time. While I worked there, there was a gay couple that kept coming in. And eventually, they sat by the bar, and I ended up talking to them for a while. I said, where are you guys from? Well, I'm from Jordan, and he's from Egypt. What are you guys doing here? Well, I came out to my parents, and they said, we'll give you 1 day to leave here before we kill you. The only place, I want you to find the irony and laugh at this one, the only place where they can be free to be who they want to be is in Israel. Is in Tel Aviv. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. I want to share, this is my contact information. And I wrote a blog while I was in the Army that I would love for you guys to check out. It talks about these kind of situations that I went through. You can write it down in a minute. I want to share one last story, which I think comes full circle with your organization, and one of the reasons why I'm very, very excited, and thank you guys for having me here today. I went on a break for 2 weeks from the Army back to the States. I had a great time. I flew back to Israel. I got back to base at 11 p.m. We were stationed in the West Bank. My officer came to me and said, Nadav, great to see you. You're on the patrol at 4 a.m. I was like, oh, great. I went to bed for 3 hours, got up, put on my bulletproof vest, put on my knee pads, was in my uniform, put on my helmet, had my M4 rifle. Went on the patrol. Halfway through the patrol, we get a call. They say, there's the usual sheep herder is he's wandering into the Jewish settlement, so you move him over. And just so you guys know, the valley that he had crossed is literally as big as from here to where Doris is sitting. We're talking 10, 15 feet maximum. So we go there, and we go there every day to tell him. And we say, come on, you can move your herd back. He's like, yeah, begrudgingly. And so we help him out. I got pretty good at herding sheep, too, while I was in the Army. Move his sheep back to his side. All of a sudden, 5 people come out. There's 1 Israeli and 4 American. And I found out later that they were Americans and Jews. They were roughly in their 60s, I'd say. And all of a sudden, they put a camera in my face and said, "How dare you do this? Show me a map that says this isn't this man's property. You've illegally taken this over," etc., etc. Now, what are we taught as soldiers to do? You don't say a word. You don't respond. A lot of Israelis don't have good English to respond in a manner that would be good. And your immediate reaction most of the time is emotional, right? It's not a factual response. So I'm pushed back, and I just simply turn and ignore the guy. And now you have 3 of us. I stood back to watch to make sure that the people weren't going to become violent. I needed to, watch them. So now I have 2 of my buddies who are helping still move the sheep, relaying everything over on the radio. And I'm watching as they crop their pictures to show these terrible IDF soldiers in our helmets and our gear and our guns and all of a sudden, as soon as these cameras came out, this Palestinian herder starts flailing his arms, won't speak to us in Hebrew anymore, only starts responding in Arabic, which none of us spoke. So now he's, yelling things we don't know what he's saying. And these people are starting to get, more and more flustered. At that moment, a siren goes off. Why does a siren go off across all of Israel? Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day. It happened to be Holocaust Remembrance Day at that exact moment. Now in Israel, for Holocaust Remembrance Day, it doesn't matter if you're driving on the freeway. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You pull your car over, you get out, you remember the 6 million people who died, you thank God that you are permitted to live in a Jewish state, and thank God for the strength of that Jewish state. I didn't have the ability to do this at this moment. I had to do my job and make sure that this was taken care of. At that moment that the siren went off, this man shoves a camcorder in his face, a roughly 60-year-old Jewish American, and says to me, "You are no better than the Nazis? How dare you do this? You should be ashamed of yourself." Now, he doesn't know that I'm from Cleveland. I'm from Shaker Heights, Ohio. He doesn't know that I've lived in Seattle, that I have family in LA and San Diego and everywhere. He has no idea who I am. What did I tell you my reaction was? I couldn't say anything. I had to remain quiet. And I said, as soon as I get out of the Army, enough is enough. I'm going around and I'm going to share my story with as many people as possible. I'm going to share it on college campuses where I'm protested and called a Nazi and receive hate emails. And if you Google my name, you will find a lot of nasty things written about me. But I will go and share this story and share so people realize it's not black and white. These are situations I've been put in. And I don't care if you're liberal or conservative or wherever you stand. These are human decisions to make. And it's not easy, and it's not black and white. And I'm not going to keep quiet, because I'm going to share this with everybody else. So you know what goes on, so you know what Ezra and myself and what all the other IDF soldiers had to go through. So again, this is my email. This is my website. You're more than welcome. I wrote a blog that was viewed by over 8,000 people from 30 countries around the world, where I write about my experiences. What is it like for an Israeli, or for a Jew an American Jew to go back to Israel, to serve in the army? A lot of really funny stories of me not understanding things, and my commanders were yelling at me at first before I spoke Hebrew. A lot of good stories. And finally I sum it up with why I did what I did. Because it's the right thing. I pray to God that I served, hoping my children won't have to serve. I pray to God that we have peace, and that we won't have to my children won't have to serve in the future. Now that's a high hope. But what is the national anthem of Israel? Hatikva. What's it mean? Hope. I gave a speech this morning at a USY convention, and they asked me, what do you think for hope for the future? It's ingrained in Judaism. Hatikva. Shalom. Peace. Hello. And I pray to God as we move forward that there is a solution to this conflict, and that one day, hopefully, God willing, we won't have to be put in into these situations, and we won't have to worry about our soldiers being kidnapped, and we won't have to worry about our sons and daughters going to war. So again, thank you guys very much for having me. And with that, I know you guys had a whole bunch of questions, so let's open it up. You first, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What does the Israeli government do to multiply your crusade thousands of times across the globe?
To do what? I'm sorry?
In order to improve the image of Israel.
That's a great... what does, and correct me if I'm wrong, what does Israel do on a PR basis to improve the image of Israel around the world? To multiply what I said thousands of times. Israel has had very bad PR. There's no question about that. Israel has been very poor at that. We have been... What does the IDF stand for? The Israel Defense Force. We have been very defensive a lot of the time in our actions. We haven't been offensive in that area. It's something that we definitely need to learn and have gotten better. Dover Tzal is the IDF spokesperson's unit. It's existed for a long time, but it hasn't been nearly as good as it has been. I was talking with a gentleman before my speech, and I said there's a great video of a officer who goes on to Al Jazeera in his IDF uniform, Jewish, with perfect Arabic. It sounds really good. I don't speak Arabic, so I don't really know, but he sounds really good. He goes on the flotilla incident that he's invited for the first time pretty much ever, and goes and just attacks and attacks and attacks, and he's never apologizes for it. He says, you forced us to do this. You forced us over and over and over to do this. So you have that aspect. Michael Lauren, who's a very good family friend, he's my mom's old roommate. My mom introduced him to his wife, small world. It's fantastic. I know he's spoken out here at UC Irvine, the famous protest that happened, and the students who were arrested, and the fallout that just recently happened from that. He's fantastic. He is what we need and need more of. I think that we're finally doing more and more of this. What I think we have an issue with is, I think that IDF soldiers, they intend to do well when they go and speak in different places, but very few of them have the English to be able to do it, and don't know how to deal with tough questions, which loses their credibility in those situations. So I think that's something that we can only send out, limit your capabilities to do so. Here's another thing that I think is a very big issue. What do Palestinians want? 3 things, potentially 4. Right of return, an end to the occupation, pre-1967 borders, and you can probably throw Jerusalem in there as well. What do Jews want? What do we want as Jews?
Right of return. Peace. 600 AD.
How about the right of return of nearly 1 million Jews who were kicked out of their Arab lands in 1948?
600
What about over billions of dollars that were stolen from Jews by the Arab countries? I mean, there's a lot of things. Now, here's the big issue. You know the famous thing, you put 2 Jews in a room and you have 3 synagogues, you put 2 Jews in a room and have 15 opinions? We aren't unified. We are not unified. I spoke at Northwestern University. They paid a lot of money to fly me out and put me up in a hotel and bring me in. They have 3 or 4 different Jewish clubs on their campus. One of them had a falafel night and didn't want to bring their falafel to hear me speak. And I was like, fine, eat while I talk. I don't care. The other one brought a rabbi in to talk, a local rabbi in to talk about Israel. And then there was me. Well, they all happen to be on the same day. That's not the way you do it. You need to have a united front. You need to have people working together. And I understand that you have the left and you have the right. But we have to have a united front. There's no question about that. Because when you don't have a united front, we have people going around and saying things that discredit other people who know what they're saying. And now you have, well, I heard one soldier go and talking about this, and now I have another soldier who's telling me this thing. Well, I don't really know where to stand. That's a big issue that we have. It's a very big issue that we have. We have to be united. Moving forward, we have to be united. Yes? That's a personal question. What do I think about J Street? Absolutely, it's a personal question. Here, I'll be honest. I'll tell you what I think. J Street. J Street is a, they won't say it's a response to AIPAC, but it is definitely a liberal response to AIPAC. I actually was a camp counselor at Camp Tel Yehuda, which is a Young Judea senior leadership camp in New York this summer. And I took two groups of 16-year-old kids to learn how to lobby. Did you know that less than 1% of Americans lobby in their lifetime? Less than 1% of Americans. That's an overwhelming fact for me. So we worked with them, and clearly my background is Israel, so I was happy to take them. We met with AIPAC and J Street and the Israel Embassy, and then they got a chance to lobby to a couple members of Congress. And I met with J Street. Their main point is this. The Arab population is growing in Israel, and eventually down the line we need to make a solution. We need need something, because if not, Israel's a democratic state. There are going to be more Muslims. They're going to outvote the Jews. And now you're going to have an Arab prime minister of Israel. Well, now it's no longer a Jewish state. So there needs to be a solution. That's their premise, and that I agree with. A meeting with them, I was not impressed, I'll be honest. They said a lot of things. I don't agree with giving the Golan Heights back. I don't believe in giving Jerusalem back. I don't agree 100% with 1967 borders. There's a lot of things that I personally disagree. But the issue for me, the main issue, the bottom line, is what are we doing moving forward, right? What is the eventual solution? So, in that respect, I agree with them. But I don't agree with a lot of their different policies that they have. Okay.
For me personally, looking at the whole thing, terrorism works. Just like when these prisoners were released and Hamas said, well, we're going to go kidnap another Israeli soldier. We're going to
give us 10 soldiers. That's 10,000 soldiers. That's 10,000 terrorists back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they're being rewarded. When they do it, they get something. So it helps them, like having that UN ambulance there and getting away with it. Gosh, we got to get some more UN ambulances involved, and they're using UN ambulances. So they get what they want. They put all the people on the roof, and so Israel doesn't kill them. So they're learning how to win over you guys, and look at all these people. How many Israeli soldiers were killed involved in putting a lot of those terrorists in prison, just capturing them? And I heard with the release, when they did release of prisoners in 2008, 60% went back and do something bad. So how are you going to stop these people that are being released in East Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria from killing other people? Are you rewarding them?
First of all, on that regard, before Netanyahu, before it was approved by his cabinet, he went to the head of the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence, and Shabak, the FBI and CIA of Israel. And he asked them for their approval. He said, what is your recommendation? I can't do this without yours. And he gave them their approval.
Why?
Because they feel that they're able to deal with the situation. Now, I was not in intelligence. I was not in either of those organizations. I am not in a judgment, and I feel like we are not in a judgment unless you work there, to be able to know exactly what they know, right? They're able to know a lot of things that we don't know. I have to trust their judgment in that. Now, here's the problem with terrorism. Israel has not fought an official country really since 1973. 82 was Hezbollah and the PLO and everything that happened. Every war since then, every conflict we've had has been fighting a terrorist organization. The only way to potentially win in that fight is to kill every single one of them and eliminate that from their textbooks and eliminate that from their history. As long as you still have a few still standing, you've lost the war. In 2005, we got our butts handed to us by Hezbollah. There's no question. You can ask any Israeli. We were unprepared for that war, and we've completely rehauled the army and done significant changes to make us a lot better and much more prepared. But we weren't able to wipe them all out. Even in Operation Cast Lead, we definitely tore through. We did a significant amount of damage. But after we left, Hamas still held a rally saying, we're still around. You didn't kick us out. You didn't kill all of us. We're still here.
That's the problem. The community was screaming and yelling.
Exactly. But this is the problem with terrorists. With fighting a terrorist, it's not fighting a country. Right? Look at us in Afghanistan. Yeah. Where? He was... that's a great question. Where was Gilad Shalit taken from? He was taken on the border. He was in a tank unit taken on the border of Gaza and Israel. And I'm trying to remember... Is anybody... Where? It's by the air. It's not air. It's by... It was... Who know? Does anybody know? Mahsoma? Erez, right? Right, the Erez crossing. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah. They came out through a tunnel, they popped out, grabbed him, took him back in. And they knew he was a pawn. He was absolutely a pawn the entire time. Why is he still alive?
Yeah, but they also killed several soldiers.
Oh, they have, absolutely. Right. Oh, in that. Yeah. Right. Right. Absolutely.
I understand how the families feel about this was like all of their sons. They felt the Israelis very, very emotional about involved with this, and I understand that the parents, of course, the situation they have to all be sympathetic. However, the government has a greater responsibility for the safety of Israel, and by letting out 1,000 terrorists, or you're making it less safe. No matter how well you control it, something's going to get through if they're that motivated that they're saying this, and the morale of people.
The morale of it, of Israel or the Palestinians? You're saying?
Pardon me?
Of Israelis or Palestinians?
No, the morale of Israelis.
Has never been higher. Israel was overwhelming in favor of bringing him back. I'm sorry. It's pretty much impossible, with all due respect, it is impossible to put yourselves in a situation of being an IDF soldier or a soldier unless you've been there. And to be able to feel that connection, they talk about brothers in arms, absolutely. There is no, you can justify it a million different ways, but that is one of your people. That is one of yours. And I have to take Mossad and the intelligence of Israel's word that it is going to be okay. That is what I can accept as a civilian. When I know that I can save his life.
How about those who will be killed by these terrorists?
Can you guarantee that?
Yeah.
You can guarantee. You can absolutely guarantee it. I think probably, if you look at it on a statistical basis, probability, absolutely. You cannot guarantee it, though.
But that one lady who was involved with the Sbarro pizza said she's happy and she'd go out and do it again.
Pretty much everybody said that as soon as they have.
Yeah. There were 3 stabbings.
When I first heard it, I took a slightly different take from everyone else, more from a Jewish pride point of view. I was thinking how embarrassing to Hamas, to the rest of the world. And it's a sports analogy, too. One of them for
That's
10,
right.
1,000 of them for one of us. We're worth 1,000. I mean, that's my very first reaction, was like a sports team selling 1,000 people for one.
I think Albert Pujols is worth that about this time.
It's a silly way, but I
Yeah.
can't help feeling that.
Right. Yes.
I wanted to know why Israel was doing that type of operation. Why don't they get them out?
Okay. a lot of, the question is, why didn't they do an operation to get him out? There's a lot, in the IDF, we do something very amazing. We have something called Tarbut Yom Aleph, which means you go around, Israel and the IDF are woven together. We go around and we learn about all the different history. I went to Ammunition Hill, where you learn about the famous battles that were fought there. You go around the country and visit all the different parts of the country and learn about it. You learn about, you have a Meshakit Chinuch, who is your educational instructor, who comes through, a woman, and teaches you about the history of the country. We go through lessons of the different operations that we've gone through, and ways that they were successful and ways they were unsuccessful. Sayeret Matkal, the most famous Israeli unit, the Delta Force equivalent, if you will, went through and they went to rescue a hostage many years ago. And I'm blanking on the name of the mission, but they made one bad error in it. They forgot which way the door opened. They had it backwards. So when they blew the door, it went the wrong way. And they blew their cover and they weren't able to do it, and they killed the hostage. So, if you look at history, and we learn about these things, and you know, as soldiers we learn about these in the IDF. Now the reason, from my understanding, and a lot of it is very secretive, and you know, I don't know, but from my understanding, Gilad was being held inside a building that was booby-trapped in every possible way, on the outside and on the inside. And as soon as anybody went in or out or anything that wasn't through a specific way, the entire building was going to explode. So I can almost guarantee that at some point, there was probably some unit somewhere training for it and have tried to figure out a way to do it, but they weren't able to do it, and because of the way that Hamas had taken it. Right. Now listen, Israel, we've done this before. And each time we do it, the price goes up. We've done land swaps for peace, given away a ton of land, 3 times the size of Israel in the Sinai Peninsula. We've created, you know, this prerequisite that we deal with, right? We've shown we'll do it. We've done it. And each time we do it, the ante's pushed up higher and higher. The only country of the 22 in the Middle East where you can have that and have this discussion is Israel. Any other place, it's tyranny. You're going against the government. You can be shot, hung, killed, you name it. So I just want to put that out there. Israel and America are intertwined, as we've seen through the ethical code of conduct and through the history of us. I mean, Michael Oren, if you haven't read, wrote The Ultimate Ally. It is the most phenomenal piece I've read about American and Israel ties. You can find it for free on the internet. And it talks, The Ultimate Ally by Michael Oren, the ambassador from Israel to America. And he wrote this piece, and it talks about, even from the Mayflower days, that the pilgrims came here talking about Zion, talking about Israel, and creating the new Zion here in America. I mean, the ties go back very, very far. But Israel and America are not exactly the same. We have different values, and a lot of times. Israel, what is a kibbutz? A kibbutz is the ultimate socialist, communist idea of everybody working together, living together. That's the foundation of Israel. The Israel, in many ways, is a reaction to the Holocaust of no one would let us in, now we'll let everybody in. We're going to keep Sudanese and Ethiopians who travel hundreds of miles across the desert, shot by Egyptian soldiers, to get in to our country. And we go, and I've been down there as we've captured them, and they run because they run to Israel knowing we're the only country that's going to let them in. Is that crazy? Probably. The only country they know. They're willing to run across the Sahara Desert to get to Israel. That's their goal. And there are thousands of them living there. Israel has its roots. My point is that Israel, in many ways, is very similar in many of the same principles as America. But we have some differences. We are built on a socialist platform. And so that's something that I think we have to consider, that it's not exactly the same. And also, and I go back to it again, I was a lone soldier in the army, which meant, and I was telling Ezra a story, I had one time where I went back home and I told my commanding officer I needed to leave at 9 a.m. that day to get back for the weekend because my adopted family wasn't going to be there. and the guy who ran my group wasn't going to be there, and I needed to get back in time to buy food from the supermarket, the Mankolit, before I closed at 2 o'clock. And if I didn't leave at 9, I wasn't going to be able to get there. He said, no, we have a run that we're doing this morning. I said, I'll do the run when I get back home. I just need to make sure I have food for the weekend. Well, he didn't let me go until 9:30. I missed the first bus. I got the second bus. I got home. Everything was closed. I had lost 10 pounds that week from training, carrying weight and climbing mountains. I ate challah and cheese that entire weekend. I got back to base, and I talked to my commander. I pulled him aside. I said, this is the last time you do this. From now on, I'm leaving at 9 a.m. He goes, wow, what? I understand. I said, no, you don't understand what it's like to be a Chayil Boded, what it's like to be a lone soldier. I don't have my family to go back to. I don't have my imam, my mother, making me food in a stocked fridge each time I get home. If I don't make it in time, I have to make my own food that weekend. And in the same way, I think that a lot of the ways, unless you've exactly lived that life, unless you've been the soldier, and unless you've been in that way, it's very hard, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, I'm not saying that, but I think it's very hard to understand where Israelis are coming from in that mentality. Yeah?
Just a brief comment about the trade again, to back up what's the value of what happened. The masses of voting people in the world have a very short memory. There's a lot of denial in the world. And what I think Israel is creating is this generation series of events. You look at the condition of a starved Gilad Shalit compared to the well-fed Arab prisoners, and it's kind of a signal to the world what's going on. And that leads me to say, when will Israel be ready to, if ever, create an understanding to the world that this is not, the Palestinians are just puppets. The war is really with Islam. And they're pawns.
I don't really know how to answer that question. I think that it needs to be a situation where Israel has better PR, as we were saying, as it goes out and is attacking more. That we're not apologetic for our, we apologize for the flotilla. Now, I was not in the Navy. That unit, Shayet Shloshestre, is very close to me. My cousin was there. One of my best friends is there. It's the unit that went down and the soldiers were beaten and were able to take over is very close to my heart. But that was that was not the right use of that unit. That was not the planning of it was incorrect. There's a million things you could point wrong that Israel did in it. But at the end of the day, Israel should not have apologized. Oh, we did. Absolutely. We apologized to Turkey. We apologized. Yeah, we did. Absolutely. We apologized on international TV to Turkey. We apologized to the world for our actions. We can't continue to do that. We need to say, you have forced us to do this. This is the hand I'm dealt. How would you respond? That's what my presentation is about. How would you respond? These are the situations. And when I give these presentations, I watch. And there are Muslims who come to mind and Arabs who come to mind who demonstrate me and whatever and don't agree with me. But I watch their reaction as we go through the movies and everything. They agree the same way you guys did. So now you're hypocritical for then pointing at Israel and saying that. I gave my whole presentation at Arizona State where I was protested there. You can see the YouTube video on that one. But I was protested there. At the end of the presentation, a guy came up to me and said, or he raised his hand. He said, listen, I'm from Syria. I moved away when I was a little kid. My question is, why do you still kill little children? Did you not watch my presentation? So there's some people who listen, you're never going to be able to reach. But what we need to reach out to, is when I gave that presentation, at the end of it, there was a kid who came up to me and said, a white freshman kid who came up to me and said, Nadav, I came to campus, I was persuaded by Students for Justice in Palestine, the big anti-Israel organization on college campuses. I saw their videos and all this stuff and I joined their group. I didn't know anything about it. This is the first time I've heard this side before. Thank you very much. And I watched him, he went over, he said, who runs the Israel group here? I said, she does. He went over there, he shook his hand, and he signed up to join that group. That's how we change things. That's how you change things. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask how many, if you can tell us how many venues have you spoken at in the United States?
I'm doing this, don't hate me, until December. And then I'm going to South America for 4 months, as all Israelis do, to go backpack across South America. I've spoken at about 20, I've given this presentation about 20 different times or so, from high school kids through Jewish communities and a lot of colleges. And I'm speaking until December. So all in all, hopefully I will go to give another 10, 15 presentations during November. I have an obligation to lead, and I have an obligation to be the most ethical person in the world, and I refuse to serve in a military or to be a citizen of a country that drops our standards to that of our foe. Now, you might say that I'm weak because of that. You might say I'm weak. And you know what? The Arabs absolutely thought we were weak after they kicked our butts. Hezbollah kicked our butts in the Second Lebanon War. We got our butts handed to us. Don't make any question about that. We flipped our entire military over. They changed everything. And guess what happened? We went into Operation Cast Lead because Hamas said, you guys are weak. We're going to keep firing. You aren't going to do anything. We went in there and destroyed it. Absolutely destroyed it. We weakened them. They fear us. Don't even let that think that they don't fear us. They realize what they can and what they can't do. If they don't fear us, why hasn't all of the countries around us attacked us? Why hasn't there been another 67, another 73? I think if we look at this in a historical manner, it makes a little more sense. Israel, as we talked about the expulsion of the Jews, the right of return for the nearly 900,000 Jews that were expelled in 1948. Well, where did all those Jews go? They went to Israel. They now make up 70% of the population of Israel. And they say, you just kicked us out of all of your countries? You think now you're the ones condemning us for our actions? Pfft, screw you. Who are you to tell me? Who are you in your right mind to tell me how I'm supposed to act after you expelled me from your country? And that is Israeli mentality a lot of the time. Is that, well, I remember watching the flotilla thing on my base with a bunch of the guys, and they were all going, and you know, I'm coming from an American mentality there. They're coming from the Israeli mentality, and I said, I can't believe this isn't on CNN, and I can't believe it, because it took almost, 24 hours, I believe, until they released the video footage, which was a mistake on Israel's behalf as well. They should have released it right away. And the Israelis go, what's it matter? You know, they're going to hate us either way. And that's the mentality of Israelis. That is honestly the mentality, is we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. That is the mentality of most Israelis. And we need to realize, because Israelis, I mean, the 70% of the populations are saying, first of all, I don't care what they have to say about me, right? They don't care about those 21 Arab states that expelled them, and you know, the other 57 Muslim states that don't agree with them a lot of the time. So I think that it goes back to we need to be a vocal community. We cannot sit idly by while Palestinians get better and better protests, while they get more activity in their communities. We need to be more active. We need to, instead of reacting to what they do, we don't need to have a protest to Israel, to Apartheid Week. We need to have a Peace Week in return. Or a week that shows, where is the real apartheid? Show the facts. We need to have that ahead of time. What if we do that the week before they have Israel Apartheid Week? Then everybody already knows the facts on our side. I mean, these are just some ideas, whatever. There's a lot of different things where we can go on there. But I think it comes to the simple point, we cannot sit idly by. We can't sit idly by, and that's one of the main parts of, I believe, your organization, of remembering the Holocaust. The Holocaust will never happen again. We cannot sit idly by. And we need to make sure that we move forward. When I got protested at Arizona State, and I encourage you all to look at the protest they did on YouTube. If you just type my name into YouTube, you'll find it. I knew that was going to happen. I mean, it was inevitable. I had an idea of what was going to happen. I knew ahead of time, before I went to college campuses, that this was probably going to happen. So I need to know my facts. So what happened when I spoke there I get a call a few days later when they had made the movie and put it on YouTube from the people, the heads of the Aztecs for Israel at Arizona State, their Israel group. And they said, we have no idea what to do. How do we react to this, whatever? I said, first of all, take a deep breath. And let's figure out what to do. So what I've realized is that on the college level, the kids have no idea how to react to it. They're not prepared for this. We need to start at a high school level. Because after working at the camp and having talked to USY, BBYO groups and all these different organizations, what do we teach our kids about Israel? Israel's great, Israel's great, Israel's great. Why is Israel great? What is the critical thinking behind that? Are we perfect? No. Why aren't we perfect? We need to teach these things to the kids. So it starts at the parental level to teach the kids, if you ask me. And it's a responsibility of the schools to explain and to have critical thinking sessions. So what I did was, I didn't know about this book until a few hours ago. I went through and read about 3,000 articles. And I went through and just put together, I really encourage you to sign up for JJ's email listserv. He sends out the best articles. And so I went through, and for 20 pages, I just wrote every single question I can probably be asked. And I said, I need to be prepared for this, because I am an ambassador of Israel when I go and speak in different organizations. And this was great. This was nobody protesting and nobody yelling at me and any of that. You guys have been great. But when that does happen, you need to be prepared for it. And the high school kids need to be prepared for it, and the college kids, so that when they're in college, they're ready for it. And I told them, and I spoke this morning to a USY convention, I said, and I started to notice that some of the kids were wandering off. I said, I want you guys to know something. In 2-3 years when you go to college, this is going to present itself. Students for Justice in Palestine, Muslim student associations are the main two, will come and attack you on college campuses. Are you prepared for it? If someone says Israel's an apartheid state, you could say it's not, but give me factual reasons why it's not. What do you expect to do by, just being one person? I said, listen, 10 to 20% of the people I speak to in any room, I can say Israel, 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 and they're going to agree with me. And then I can say 10 to 20%, Israel, 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 and they're going to hate everything I have to say. But it's the 60 to 80% in the middle of that guy from Arizona State, of a Palestinian from Hebron in the West Bank, who came to me after that and said, I didn't participate in the protests at Arizona State because I wanted to hear what you had to say. His ears are open. He's willing to listen. So if we come with the right voice, then we can do something. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys again for everything. I'll stick around here for a little bit for other questions. It was a pleasure.